on the ground. I'm not coming down. I want to go higher, higher, higher than that.
Welcome back to the Business is Human podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Fleetwood Hession, and we're here to bring you episodes that blend meaningful work with profitable success. Here to steward what I call the age of humanity. I believe if we transform the way we work, we can transform the way that we live. As always, my friendly request, if you like what you hear, hit subscribe so you don't miss any episode, and leave a review to tell the other humans that they might like it too. Always looking to help you and connect with others. All right, let's get into it, shall we? Welcome back to Business is Human. And today I'm wearing my Business is Human t-shirt, which you can also buy for yourself if you wanted to. If you go to shop.standtallinyourstory.com, you can get yourself one. You know what else you can do while you're there? There's a collection called the Badass Collection that I'm closing out. And so if you use the code BADASS, you'll get 25% off any of the Badass merch in there. Because you know what? Sometimes things need to shut down. And so I'm shutting down the Badass Women's Council brand stuff. And I'm excited about it because I know that the Lord is opening up so many new things for me that I needed to create some space. So there you go. Either get yourself a Business is Human t-shirt or get yourself a closeout sale badass something. The mugs are really cool. Okay, back to the episode. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to hold up the umbrella as a leader. So you may have heard that phrase tossed around. I've used it a lot in consulting and coaching. Let's go a little bit deeper into it, as I like to do, because it's more than just a metaphor. It's really a leadership principle that we're going to back up with science, scripture, real world success stories. Grab your coffee, grab your journal, just tune in, because this one is important. It's always important, but I would say even more so in the environment that we're in right now. So what does it mean to hold up an umbrella? So rain, sun, it's meant to shield, obviously. But picture this, your team is trying to do meaningful strategic work. They've got a plan, they're trying to work the plan. But above them, and probably above you, it's raining down distractions, endless meetings, shifting priorities, corporate politics, performance reviews that focus more on activity than real impact. Your job as a leader is to hold up that umbrella and shield them from the storm and the rain so they can focus, so they can think clearly and actually maybe enjoy their work. Look, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's so worth it. I had a leader that was so good at this at Franklin Covey, Paul Walker. I think I've talked about this in past episodes. It's worthy of revisiting a lot. And the sense of appreciation that I had for him as a human, because I knew what it took for him to do that, I would have walked through fire for that man, because I knew that he was doing the hard work to shield us from a lot of crap. There's also studies that show, in fact, Amy Edmondson, who is a Harvard gal, she's the one who coined the term psychological safety. She found that teams that feel protected and secure, get this, they take more risks, they innovate more, they perform better. So it's not just a nice thing to do. It's necessary if you want great results and impact. What I have seen happen over the last, 30 decades in business is the pendulum shifts all the time. It shifts from money focused to people focused, back and forth and back and forth. And right now, the pendulum has shifted again to a money focus, because leaders are freaking out about a lot of things in the environment right now that are causing money challenges for businesses. And when that happens, too often we leave the people focus. We go from back to controlling everything versus connection with people. Now, you and I both know that the sweet spot is to know that people are the one who get you the results and just stay there. And some leaders do. Praise the Lord. We love them for that. Others just go with whatever is the pressure is taking them. That's not going to work. Now, as that pendulum shifts, sometimes a part of that shift is it goes from, let's be really transparent with everyone and share openly about all the things, because transparency does build trust. But I'm going to give you a caveat on this. And look, I taught Speed of Trust from Dr. Stephen M. R. Covey's work for a long time. So I feel like I have a lot of credibility in this topic. And I love Stephen M. R. Covey. In fact, I just saw in my memories a picture of him and I together when he was in Indianapolis not too long ago. We got to have breakfast and catch up. I love that man. He is good man and has done amazing things in the world with his content. Speed of Trust. Transparency, yes, does create trust. However, the caveat is when we are in overload already, which is the case that everybody is in right now, too much information that isn't contextual, isn't relevant to them and their work, isn't going to be helpful. We don't need more information. We need to be diligent to make sure that we bring them clarity on what's important and context on why it matters. Why is it relevant and why is it impactful? So be the leader as you're holding up that umbrella that helps make the decisions on what information you do share with people. So clarity plus the context is important. Why is this relevant? Why does it matter? And if it's not relevant and it doesn't matter to them and the strategic work that they're doing, do them a solid and leave it out. It's not because you're lying to them or not sharing the full story. Just give them what they need to know to do good work. And then if they have more questions, be open and share more with them. But sometimes I see like just data dumping on people and their eyes are just glazed over like, why does any of this crap matter? And if you can't tell the story on why it matters, it doesn't matter. Let's geek out on some science for a minute. When people feel exposed and stressed by all of the data and external demands that are happening, their amygdala kicks in. That's the fear center in the brain. And creativity plummets. So when fear goes up, creativity goes down. So that is when trust goes out the window because I'm afraid. And I can't be open and collaborative and trusting if I'm afraid. So if there's a whole lot of information that is just information, if you're just making some guesses about things, but you're not really sure how it's going to turn out, like don't just bring information for information's sake. So when a leader steps in to hold up that umbrella and block a lot of these distractions, you're creating safety. And then once you've created safety, then the prefrontal cortex that makes good decisions can kick back on and take over and start planning, innovating, making better human connections. It is so true. Like the example I used with Paul Walker, not the famous actor that passed away, CEO of Franklin Covey. He wasn't the CEO at the time. He was a general manager. And he was my general manager. And he was also, we had been peers, colleagues. And I just saw what he did for us. And it was amazing in the way that I felt safe and protected and able to be bold and innovate and make really good decisions for my clients. And I made them a lot of money. Again, we can go to some of the studies if you need more proof of this. The Aristotle Google project, one of the well-known studies on psychological safety, they studied 180 plus teams to find out what made their highest performers successful. The number one factor wasn't intelligence, wasn't their background, experience, resumes. It was, drumroll please, psychological safety. The teams who thrived were led by managers who protected their time, shielded them from distractions, and created environments where they could experiment without fear. This didn't happen by chance. It happened because the leaders were intentional about holding up the umbrella. So here's why it's more important today than even in recent past. I did an episode about this a while ago, the manager crisis, right? People don't want to be managers because you get it coming down and going up, and people are exhausted. And so the people who have primarily been asked to hold up the umbrella are barely keeping it together. In fact, many of them just said, nope, I'm out. So middle managers are burned out, overwhelmed, not feeling supported. That's what the studies show. And that's what my experience with clients and their stories validate. 75% of millennial managers report being stressed or they've considered quitting. Gen Z just said, no, thank you. And I can say that because I have kids that said, I don't want that job. I don't blame them. And so the pressure is real. And our response can't be, well, suck it up. Those young kids just don't want to work anymore. Well, that's not true. They want to work. They just don't want to work in these conditions. And listen, I'm here for them challenging all of this because I didn't want to work in those conditions either. I just didn't know that there was another option. The pressure is real. Managers are being squeezed from the top and the bottom, and the umbrella is sort of just like falling apart. So we, as leaders, need to better understand how to do this for managers and for the front line. Now, I have some clients that are small and mid-sized business, and I have some that are Fortune 500 big. Anytime you're in a company that you have a money first system, so publicly traded, venture capital, private equity is a money first system because you answer to somebody about money. Now, I'm not saying that small and mid-sized business who are privately held or entrepreneurs don't have a money-making model, but they have more freedom to make decisions that are people-first decisions versus money-first decisions because of the nature of the structure. I'm not judging people's character. I'm just giving you the facts. And so when you have a money-first system, like a publicly traded company, you probably have a global CEO somewhere who has to answer to the stockholders and a board of directors. And oftentimes, when there's money challenges on high, the highest levels of the organization will come down and start mandating things that need to happen because they're afraid that they're not going to hit the targets. They're afraid that they're not going to hit. And they can't just sit and hope that things get better. They got to take some sort of action. So the more that you can do to be a good filter, to understand that that leader isn't making these decisions usually just to be a pain in your ass. They're making these decisions because they got to report to somebody that they're doing something to get better results. And I get it that sometimes it's really disconnected. And then they're like, that really? They thought that was going to be the right answer? Well, they had to have something. So the more that we can be good at holding up the umbrella and saying, look, we got to get better results. We got to do whatever we need to do to comply with what's being asked of us. But if you know that it's going to tank the system to do what this leader has asked, find some middle ground because really what they want is better results. And so if you can increase the money-making model, it buys you a whole lot of not needing to do what is being pushed down from the top. That was always my strategy. Get good enough results that people left me alone. Because when you're making money and you're producing the results, they do leave you alone. But if you're not, then you're going to have to show some sort of plan that says that you're going to turn that around. And so that's a part of holding up the umbrella to say, okay, I got to hunker down, get this done, and recognize that the enemy is not the leader who's making those decisions. That's a leader who's under an immense amount of pressure, and they're just trying to do what they can do to make sure that they can give the results that they've promised. So I love some Starbucks. You can love them, you can hate them, whatever. It's just a pattern that I have with all of the travel that I've done my whole life. It was a constant. I knew if I could find a Starbucks, I knew what kind of experience I was going to get, and I knew what kind of coffee I was going to get. And so I worked from there. I knew I was going to have some Wi-Fi. Starbucks has been part of my life. Now, I love me some lavender cold foam. I have upped the amount of trips that I've been making to Starbucks recently because I know it's not going to last forever. And the scarcity of the day that it leaves has me going to get one every day almost. Judge me. I don't care. Recently, I had been getting little messages on my cup. Now, I'm a very faith filled, prayerful person, and I try to give God credit for every good thing that happens in my life. And so I was getting these messages, and I was be like, "You're awesome. You're a rock star." And I was like, "Oh, look, the Lord is blessing me today." And I would post my picture of my cup on my Instagram story and be like, "Oh, look, yay." And then I started getting like a half done star or a scribbled heart. And I was like, why would you even bother to put that on there? And this only took me like 4 days to figure it out. The consultant in me was like, red alert, red alert. So I was like, oh, I bet there's a new executive at Starbucks in charge of customer experience. Seriously, it took me 4 days. I got 2 really great messages that I posted on my story. And then I was like, wah, wah, wah. Sure enough, did a little search. There was a new executive for customer experience that was hired the end of 2024, maybe even the beginning of 2025. And the mandate is that we're going to create better experiences in our stores. And so 2 things happened. You write a message on the cup and you offer glass cups if they're staying inside. Now, listen, I have been a waitress and a bartender. I've never worked at Starbucks, but I have served the people. Okay. And mandating a human experience is never going to give an actual human experience because when it's busy and they have been told they have to write on a cup and they've got 45 people waiting in line and 50 to go orders, those tickets are just boom, 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 boom. Ain't nobody caring about me being a rock star. Get the latte out the window. Okay? Half star, half heart. Just comply, comply, comply. Do you think people working at Starbucks want to now do dishes for the glass cup that I don't want? Because I might not finish my drink before it's time to go. And I don't want to have to go get a to-go cup. I ain't got time for that. So you can see where somebody in a corporate meeting said, remember when we used to be friendlier? Remember when it used to feel more homey? Because here's the pendulum that has swung at Starbucks. And I know this because I've been a lifelong customer. Like I said, hate me if you want. The pendulum has swung. It used to be that Starbucks was known as the third place. There was home, there was work, and it was your third place where you went. And there were fireplaces and leather chairs, and it was homey, and you could get your coffee in a mug, and people would come and stay a while. And then the pendulum swung to a money first system. Why are these people loitering? Get your coffee and get out. And so it went to hard cement floors and metal chairs, which this is usually what drives me out, is when people start pushing in that metal chair on that concrete floor and the screech of that is enough to send me into a different planet of nervous system dysregulation. And I usually just have to get up and go. So the message then was, get your coffee and get out. Well, the pendulum has swung. And now they're trying to be nicer. And now they want you to feel more homey, like they're nice people. Look, I don't care if they're nice people. I want my lavender cold foam. That's actually not true. I love my local barista conversations. I love that when I pull up and I order my venti iced latte with coconut milk, 2 pumps of chai, and lavender cold foam. Yes, steal that recipe because it's amazing. And a pup cup. Oftentimes for my afternoon break with Olive in the car. My barista knows it's me. And sometimes she'll even say, is this Rebecca? Nothing lights my heart up more than being known and seen for my Starbucks order. Yes. You want anything to eat today? No, thanks. I love that. That's not a mandate. That's a relationship. It has nothing to do with a half written star on my cup. She likes me. I like her. We have a little moment. That is what we want. And so if you were holding up the umbrella as a manager at Starbucks, you would say, here's the things that we need to do to make sure our customers are happy. Be friendly, be nice, and they will appreciate us for that. And if they want their coffee in a mug, they can ask for it. But if you're the manager at Starbucks who says, look at the memo I got now, bunch of idiots at corporate telling us what to do. Now, which kind of response are you going to get from people if that's how you present it as a manager? So there's all kinds of ways to communicate with people when you're in the middle. And if you want to talk more about that for your team or your organization, I have lots of thoughts and ideas. Let's book some time together. But that's what happens. And if you've been with a particular company as a customer for a while, you can start to see the signs. Like I said, as a longtime consultant and coach, I start to just see these things happening. So hold up the umbrella and make sure that if you're communicating a corporate strategy that you think is dumb, if you communicate it as dumb, you're going to get dumb results. If you communicate it with empathy and say, hey, we've got to start presenting better results as a company. I know our store is fantastic. Here's the deal. Keep being fantastic. Keep loving on our customers. If they want a glass cup, give it to them. And if you need to write on cups, try to make it as wholesome and as loving and kind that represents your heart. And if you're super backed up and busy and you don't get it done, no harm, no foul. Just be real about it. We're not meant to lead alone. It's okay to work together with your team, ask for support. It's okay to set boundaries, be real, be a human, protect your energy so you can protect your team, communicate in ways that are loving and kind. So, some reflection questions, if you will. Are you holding up the umbrella or are you caught in the storm too? Because you might need some stillness practice to get yourself regulated enough to even go find the umbrella. It's probably in the trunk. You're sitting in the car in the rain, can't even find it. Number 2, what distractions are pulling your team off course? Just sit down and make a little list. Stillness time. If you have a monthly clarity day, you'd be discovering this. Who's holding you up when you get tired? What are your soul food practices that make sure that you've got the ability to do this for your team? So think about those things. You could actually run a distraction audit. What meetings, emails, reports are draining your team and not adding enough value? Get rid of them. Eliminate them. Delegate them. Pause them. You could just pause it for the summer and be like, you know what? If we miss it, we'll bring it back. Give yourself a little test. Clarify the priorities every week, not every quarter or when things are falling apart. Every week, just make sure people know, hey, this is what's most important. This is who we serve and why it matters. We serve Rebecca and Olive. Make sure she gets her lavender cold foam and a buck cup. Check in on psychological safety. Ask your team. Ask them, do you feel safe to speak up or push back when things aren't going well? Listen to how it feels when they respond, because sometimes people's energy says something different than their words. So really tune in when they respond. And protect focus time. Schedule it, guard it, model it. If somebody has something on their calendar, don't double and triple book them. That's just mean. The other day I was talking to a potential client. I said, okay, we're at time. You probably have another meeting scheduled. And he said, actually, I had 2 other meetings scheduled at this time and I chose you. Well, yay. Thank you for choosing me and hire me so we can take care of that triple booking problem. That's no bueno. Leadership isn't about doing more. It's about protecting what matters. When you hold the umbrella, your team can do their best work. They feel seen, supported, and safe. That's not just good for business. That's human. Be a Paul Walker. Until next time, remember, business is human and you're not alone. Love you, mean it. Bye.
I'm not coming down. I never left it on the ground. I'm not coming down.
Thanks for being here. You can follow us on Instagram, Business is Human, or TikTok, Rebecca Fleetwood Hession. It's a great way to share some of the clips with your colleagues and friends. All right. Make it a great day. Love you, mean it.